Thank you for joining JTV News. I'm Peter Gay Coombs. Here are the headlines. Too many expats.
I have absolutely no problems with anyone seeking employment in my country if I have nobody in my country that can fill that position.
Most of the key positions that are in some of these statutory corporations are BVI landers. So sometimes when we talk, it sounds like we have a bunch of founders making decisions for us, but we are the ones who are doing it to ourselves. You know, and we just need to stop it.
Opposition leader Andrew Foy asked, what's the rush?
7 bills in 3 days. Hardly any of us in here are lawyers. Hardly any of us are experts in some of these areas. Now I know some people get elected and a wang hit them in their head and they know everything but every topic.
Do you like your news online or on paper? SSB doing extremely well.
Thus far, the board has bought about 90 acres of land.
We chat with a young man with a big heart. In Hot Trends, BVI bands heat things up at St. Thomas Carnival.
We open it down, we shut it down.
The big story this week, that situational analysis of children in the BVI done by UNICEF. In Caribbean news, Trump administration gets cracking on new remittance tax. More calls for CARICOM to ditch the UK Privy Council in favor of the CCJ. And IMF backs away from commitment to fight protectionism as anti-free trade US President Donald Trump clears his first 100 days in office. In our Medical Minute segment, Brain Food.
What's good for the heart is good for the brain. So I think many of the same features that give us good heart health will also give us good brain health.
Dr. Geronimo Jones tells us more in our Mayo Clinic Medical Minute. I'll be back with the news in detail after this short break.
This is us. This is how we work. This is how we play. This is how we live. This is us. This is how we flow.
Welcome back to JTV News. The thorny issue of foreigners being able to obtain jobs in the BVI, particularly in government agencies, was raised in the House of Assembly recently. The lead was taken by Junior Minister of Tourism and at-large Representative Archibald Christian during the debate of the motion to appoint Ayana Liburd as the new chairperson of the BVI Health Services Authority. Mr. Christian argued that locals are being sidelined in favor of expatriates.
Madam Speaker, the practice where non-BVI landers already secured a job in the BVI can find employment on a statutory body or the organization that the statutory body is deemed to have responsibility over. And you have qualified Virgin Islanders not working, not employed, failing to get a job in those organizations. In my opinion, it is wrong. You cannot have your own people that are qualified in their own country can find a job, and someone else who is working in your country who already has a job is getting a job in a government organization. Tell me how that is right. I have absolutely no problems with anyone seeking employment in my country if I have nobody in my country that can fill that position.
Minister Christian says he looks forward to a bill to be brought to the House to amend the labor code.
One of the things we have to fix in that labor code is the way and the manner in which you advertise for a job, knowing full well that you already have somebody lined up for that job, but you just put it in to satisfy labor requirements, and then next thing you know, many of our people can't get the jobs. And Madam Speaker, I want to make it abundantly clear, this is not about us versus them. We grant everybody an opportunity to work in this country. But whenever you start to talk about ensuring that your people get an opportunity to work in our country, you begin to hear, we don't like this and we don't like that. That's not the spirit of the BVI.
In response, Health and Social Development Minister Ronnie Skelton says it's time to stop playing the blame game.
I don't know who we are blaming for the employment of all people. You know, it's all well and good we can go about blaming all sorts of other people. But on all the boards that we have formed, I don't speak of majority of them, 99.99% BVI landers. Most of the key positions that are in some of these statutory corporations are BVI landers. So sometimes when we talk, it sounds like we have a bunch of foreigners making decisions for us, but we are the ones who are doing it to ourselves. You know, and we just need to stop it.
Minister Skelton says the facts demonstrate that expatriate employees are needed, as is evident in the health sector, as there aren't enough local medical personnel to fill certain positions. He cautioned his colleagues in the House and belongers against making unfounded assumptions.
I don't know if blaming others is going to help, but I know there are certain cases where we can't do it. For example, if I pick Health Services Authority, we need nurses. We need nurses. Somebody have told our people that it can be nurses in this modern era by doing home economics in school. But it doesn't work, Madam Speaker. And we have had the nurses going to the schools to tell them differently. You got to be biology and chemistry. You got to be in the sciences now in order to be a nurse, Madam Speaker. So when it comes along the employment, and I know the question was asked here sometime back at they want to see the employees of People's Hospital, how many are belongers and how many are not. And that's because, to the best of my knowledge, except the doctors and the nurses, that we need more of that we don't have. Majority of other people were belongers. I think sometimes we are looking at some people and because they were not born here, we say they're not belongers. But some of those people have status. They have a lot of stuff, and I think that's where we're making some of the mistakes. I know of cases where, you know, all of us, some of the people at the different statutory boards, they have their own preferences who they would like to work with. And sometimes if somebody applies that they feel is not going to be part of a culture, they don't employ them. So there were problems, but we are the ones to be blamed. And I am not talking about the one just in this House, Madam Speaker. I'm talking about we call ourselves belongers of this country. From us all the way down. We are the ones who are doing it.
Persons living and working in the territory of the British Virgin Islands are committed to 3 major deductibles: payroll, national health insurance, and social security. Persons get direct benefits from the latter two on the instance of sickness only, while the other for illness and retirement. However, social security is proving to be the most profitable for the government, as it is said to be one of the wealthiest funds, in excess of $500 million. Kathy Richards tells us more.
Minister for Health and Social Development Ronnie W. Skelton continues to push the cart for persons to stay true to their obligations to the Social Security Board with a compulsory insurance that has to date netted more than $500 million.
We must thank some of our big donors. I don't remember them. I know the Social Security Board is one of the biggest, the biggest contributor to the donor wall. And the Social Security scheme will go from, what I understand, $614 million now to $1 billion in probably the next 2, 3, or 4 years.
The minister was at the time addressing those attending the unveiling of the donors wall at the People's Hospital, where it was noted that the Social Security Board is the biggest contributor to the territory's main medical facility. He urged the persons to stay healthy so the Social Security Board can get wealthier.
If you stay healthy, you can contribute more to the scheme. It's simple. It's not rocket scientist stuff. So if we can keep you on your feet, walking, and getting the prayers you need from my friends, you can contribute more to the Social Security scheme.
The minister's call came shy of a week after the Social Security Board broke grounds for the construction of a housing scheme, Joes Hill Manor, where the board's director, Antoinette Skelton, boasted about the wealth of the Social Security Board.
Thus far, the board has bought about 90 acres of land. And they're in Spooners, Josiah's Bay, Josh Van Dyke, Virgin Garda, West End. That's it, Mr. Chair? Longchen. Oh, and Wickham Key. And Wickham Key. We have 4 lots on Wickham Key, and I don't want to preempt, but you said it, so I'm going to say that Social Security has outgrown its space. So sometime soon you'll be invited to another groundbreaking, because we have to build a headquarters so we can better serve the public. We're sitting on each other now, so soon we will have another groundbreaking.
This is one of several things the health minister notes as a positive. He encourages persons to inculcate the habit of highlighting the progress that is taking place in the territory and to shun negative talk. For JTV News, Kathy Richards.
Leader of the opposition Virgin Islands Party VIP Andrew Foy appealed in the most recent session of the seat of government for better balance in determining the agenda of the House of Assembly, which sometimes results in consecutive marathon sittings to pass multiple pieces of legislation. Mr. Foy stated that he wasn't attempting to stymie the work of the House, but takes the passing of bills seriously and is concerned that legislators risk diminishing returns by seeking to pass 7 bills or more stretched over successive days.
Madam Speaker, I don't feel right. And I'm asking for us to be more mindful of how many times we put the first readings on, so we could know how many second and third readings on. If it is urgent, the Premier has something urgent he wants to put on. I said, Premier, I'm not standing in the way of anything urgent in the territory. But to sit down here for day after day in the same sitting and hammering away, and to go past 7 bills in 3 days. Hardly any of us in here are lawyers. Hardly any of us are experts in some of these areas. Now I know some people get elected and a one hit them in their head and they know everything but every topic. Madam Speaker, I am asking that we limit the number of second and third readings so we can do these bills justice for the people of the territory. Because, Madam Speaker, I'm not saying that I can't keep up with the pace, but I know, Madam Speaker, if most of us are asked when we go out of here and we leave here one by one, the people just pick us off one by one and ask us for each and every single bill that we pass here, Madam Speaker, and ask us in depth, not all of us can answer. That's not your job.
Speaking towards the end of the last late-night session of the House of Assembly, Mr. Foy further argued that these marathon sessions focused on rushing through bills infringed on the time allotted for questions posed by the opposition to the government.
Of course, Madam Speaker, you know, if the sitting continues by law, that the only aspect that the opposition, and forget who is in it, the opposition based on this makeup of our legislative council, the only input that they would have is the questions and answers. It has become the norm to shift them to the end for whatever reason these bills have to be passed urgently. So, Madam Speaker, we stay here 3, 4, 5 days, and then to the end the questions are asked. And then, Madam Speaker, it leaves us with no other choice at this hour of the night that to get out after all that time, but to give us a time limit. So now the only other section that the opposition can get up and represent the people of this territory from a different angle, not and one to create mischief, although others would think so, but from a different perspective, is doing other business. It needs a better balance with what we are doing in this house.
Meanwhile, Premier Dr. D. Orlando Smith said he understood the opposition leaders' concerns and would also hold informal meetings to help legislators to have a better understanding of the bills to be passed.
I will review the way we are discussing and presenting bills to the House. And I also think that we need to have a look at how the questions, at what time the questions come. In some countries, for example, in UK, the specific question times that are not in a normal sitting, for example. So I think it is time for us to sit down as a legislative body and decide how best that should be handled. But I will do my best to make sure that the bills that come before the House are spread over a reasonable time.
Newspaper talk, indeed. Seldom one can talk technology without making reference or comparison to the days when reading newspapers was the in thing. Mrs. Connie George is the acting Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education here in the BVI. She was moved to make such a comparison while making opening remarks at the Learning Hub e-learning and test preparation system launching ceremony on April 24. She told a story many might very well relate to.
I picked up a newspaper in the supermarket just last evening. And I picked it up because the headlines caught my attention.
The technology age is impacting in many ways the existence of newspapers. Here in the BVI, there are now only 2 major newspapers that remain in existence. While a comment was not possible from the Island Sun newspaper, we did have a brief talk with the editor-in-chief of the Beacon newspaper, Freeman Rogers, who said despite the advent of online and other news and communication outlet via technology, they continue to be a profitable entity.
I have to say, I think we're doing a lot better than a lot of newspapers. I think we're lucky in a lot of respects. Here in the BVI, I think people are still reading the newspaper. They're picking up the newspaper. Certainly, we do have a lot of competition from online, and a lot of people do, they go online. We also have a website as well, though, which we're working on our website as well. I'm going to relaunch one pretty soon. I think we're doing a lot better than most newspapers in the world. I think we're lucky in that respect. One thing that I think has been important for us is I think now in the age of internet news, it's kind of a day-to-day news cycle, but one of the things that I think we do well is we do longer, more in-depth journalism, investigative journalism, journalism that delves below the surface. And it almost makes us more magazine-y in some respect. We're so profitable. I think we're lucky in that respect as well. But yeah, we're doing well over here.
Now, despite the pros and cons of technology versus newspaper, there is no doubt there is no feeling like a good old-fashioned read of a newspaper. Being recognized as a philanthropist is one thing. Being a die-hard benefactor of causes that impacts the lives of those around you is another. The latter can be said of the territory's youngest donor to the development of the People's Hospital, Jaleel Cameron. He's taking what he does so seriously that soon he will be launching the Jaleel Cameron Foundation. Kathy Richards wraps with him.
Printed here on the donor's wall at the People's Hospital is the name Jaleel Fernando Cameron, a young man that is small in stature but very big at heart.
Every time I see him or every time I think about him, I am always so much more impressed. What he has done as an individual, and especially someone of such a young, tender age, to raise all this money that benefits not just himself, but anyone else who needs to have such a scan done. It's phenomenal.
Certainly, this is not an isolated scenario because Jaleel Cameron has touched the hearts of many in this territory and beyond by his selfless acts.
I started having seizures when I was 10 years old, and we came to the People's Hospital to look for some treatment for me, but they said they didn't have the necessary machine to treat me, so I had to go away to Miami to do the treatment. And when I came back, I thought I should, pitch in for the to get the machine, because not everyone is as lucky as me can go to Miami to get the treatment. So I just thought that I could raise some money to help buy the machine so that others won't have to go through what I went through.
He is now 12 years old and continues to sell water and other beverages at every given opportunity for no personal gain other than a satisfied heart that he is impacting the lives of countless others.
Because I just love helping the community. I think the government can't do everything, so I just love to help the government with helping the community in any possible way I can.
Jaleel Fernando Cameron, for your acts of kindness, we hail you. Sapphire.
Today is the youngest donor inscribed on the donors wall at the New People's Hospital after his first venture raised $27,000 for the purchase of an electrocephalogram machine.
So for anyone who requires a scan of the brain to look at brainwave patterns and activities, that's the reason for the EEG machine. We have our neurological clinics with the folks from HEMA. So depending on the number of persons, that they have scheduled, and it's not something that you do every day as an individual, but it's scheduled routinely to monitor and to track your brainwave activities.
Jaleel is now taking his philanthropic act to another level. In what way and why?
The launching of our foundation is on June 3rd. I would love to fund a scholarship for someone in the medical field to operate the machine that we bought. I would love to send them away to medical school.
Like his friends look forward to their Saturday selling of water in the streets, and the boys at the Rainbow Children's Home anticipate his stopping by for a game of basketball, Jaleel look forward to the continued support of the community as his heart continues to beat in and out of his chest in his quest to continue making a meaningful contribution to the British Virgin Islands. For JTV News, Kathy Richards.
Still to come on JTV News, the big story this week, we take a look at the UNICEF report that has unsettled some BV Islanders. In Hot Trends, Sophie B hops on over to the St. Thomas Carnival. But first, other news making headlines in the Caribbean.
Here in the Virgin Islands, we are blessed to live and work in paradise. Paradise just doesn't mean our tranquil blue waters and green hills. National Bank of the Virgin Islands defines paradise as any place or condition that fulfills your aspirations.
To me, paradise means knowing that I will have a financing partner when I'm ready to open my first business.
I feel confident that I can manage whatever life throws my way because I know my bank will be with me every step of the way.
That's why I choose National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official bank of paradise.
My future's looking so bright, 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 with the official bank of paradise, paradise.
National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official bank of paradise.
If the Trump administration has its way, remittances to Caribbean and Latin American countries could soon be taxed. The tax, which is included in a bill which was introduced in the House of Representatives on March 30, 2017, aims to amend the Electronic Fund Transfer Act. The Trump administration is looking beyond Mexico, despite campaign rhetoric, to fund the new president's controversial wall to keep Mexicans from entering America illegally. The bill, entitled the Border Wall Funding Act 2017, proposes a 2% charge on remittances to countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, including Mexico. For persons who try to avoid paying the remittance tax, the penalties include up to 20 years imprisonment and a $500,000 fine or twice the value of the funds involved, whichever is greater. Countries that participate in any evasion risk losing their U.S. foreign aid or eligibility for U.S. visa waiver programs. The head of the National Money Transmitters Association has reportedly dubbed the bill a xenophobe's hallucination. Trinidad and Tobago's President Anthony Carmona, who served as a High Court judge before being appointed to the post in 2013, says the refusal of all 15 CARICOM members to ratify the Caribbean Court of Justice as their final court of appeal is a failure that mitigates against the spirit of the Caribbean integration movement. Mr. Carmona says, quote, "Perhaps the day will come when we can all take pride in and responsibility for defining, shaping, writing, and ultimately rewriting our own jurisprudence and laws in the context of our own peculiarities and the relationships among our own member states," end quote. The Trinidad and Tobago president argues further that the potential of global developments to marginalize or make irrelevant the sovereignty of Caribbean states requires leadership, and that includes moving away from the UK Privy Council. 12 of the 15 CARICOM states are signatories to the CCJ, but only 4, Barbados, Guyana, Dominica, and Belize, have agreed to the Port of Spain-based court as their final decider in legal matters. And the Trump era is already being solidified just 100 days into his administration with the withdrawal of a crucial commitment from the International Monetary Fund (IMF), in which the U.S. is the single largest shareholder and holds veto power on the fund's board. While it had committed at an October meeting to continue fighting different forms of protectionism, that promise was absent from the final communique of the IMF and World Bank's annual spring meetings. The IMF has not stated if the change has been influenced by the U.S. government. However, chairman of the IMF's Policy Advisory Committee, Austin Carson, is reported by international media saying the term protectionism had been removed from the different sections of the communique as it was very ambiguous. President Trump's rise to office was predicated on his America First rhetoric. Coming up next on JTV News, the big story this week, we take a look at the UNICEF report that has unsettled some BVI landers. In Hot Trends, Sophie B. hops on over to St. Thomas Carnival.
This is us. This is how we work. This is how we play. This is how we live. This is how we flow. If you're looking for extra savings and free benefits
with car insurance
and home insurance,
Colonial has just the cover you need.
there's a free $250 gift voucher for new home insurance customers too, and 10% car insurance discount if you have home insurance.
With a claim service that's quick and friendly.
We call it Cover Without Added Costs.
Call for a quote on 494-8450 or Virgin Gorda 495-6403 or visit cgigroup.com.
Colonial, where people come first.
Welcome back to JTV News. It's time for our big story. This week, Kathy Richards and I take a look at the UNICEF report on children in the BVI. The BVI has a population of just over 28,000 residents, and 8,000 of those persons are children. Now, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has done what they describe as a situational analysis of children residing in the BVI. That analysis was done in collaboration with the government of the BVI, and the report was tabled in Parliament recently by Health Minister Ronnie Skelton. However, Kathy, there have been some issues with this report.
Yes.
Now, some residents in the territory haven't taken too kindly to some of the concerns raised in this report, but it's important that we point out that this report, UNICEF says, was done not only in collaboration with the government, but various stakeholders locally, civic stakeholders, NGOs, the police, magistrates, lawyers, teachers, and everyday people here also voiced what their concerns or commendations were of situations involving children in the territory. And what we must point out is that UNICEF stated that every single bit of information that's included in this report was not done until it was confirmed by at least 3 separate sources. And so what can be stated definitively is that this report is fact-based, and remember that the government was also involved, whether or not it's complementary, but there are also complementary things in this report. But unfortunately, we have to start with some of the not so complementary things that have been brought up in this report. Let's start with the situation involving migrants and their children residing in the territory. Education Minister Myron Walwyn is the one who brought attention to this concern being raised in this report, and it's not the first time that he's doing this, but this time around he's reminding that in the constitutional review that's coming up, the status of children born to migrants in the territory must be prioritized, and this is why. UNICEF says that the rules of citizenship and belonger status in the BVI are complex and difficult to understand, with some persons who were interviewed stating that it also involves some level of discretion in the decision-making process. And in alluding to this report, the Minister of Education pointed out that why it's significant that this is resolved is that unless, if children can't obtain, be regularized here in the BVI, they may have a similar situation in their children, their parents' country of residence, and this places their status in somewhat of a limbo as they might end up being stateless. And who would want their kids to be in that kind of a situation?
While you do not want your kids to be in that situation, your children tends to feel that tension. They have to coexist with persons who are resident or have their statuses here in the very school system, and it's a feeling that transcends. But what I want to bring your attention back to, that this is not, while you said it, it's not the first time that Honorable Walwyn is bringing up this situation. Back in 2013, when he brought the situation up, he alluded to the British Nationality Act, which he said is more divisive than uniting, and is something that should be done away with in an instance. We also had Honorable Alvaro Maduro Keynes chiding in on this very issue, and she spoke specifically back in 2014 to the issue of children who are born here, not necessarily of parents who are resident here or have some sort of a status, having to pay an immigration fee to stay here. This seems to be extreme, and she feels that, you know, this really should be done away with. And when you follow the blogs, the comments of persons who contributed to that dialogue online, persons tend to agree to this. If laws says, okay, I cannot have a status until a certain time or until a certain thing is done, at least don't pressure my parents who are paying a tax already to have to pay immigration for me to stay here.
And it's significant to note, Kathy, that why these issues have always been there, but why they're gaining greater prominence now is because there is a larger migrant population in the BVI, and that migrant population is half of those 20,000, of that 28,000 here in the BVI. And the health minister, we should point out, and this, let's just point out when this immigrant boom took place. According to the information garnered by UNICEF, between 1990 and 2010, the population in the BVI was increased by immigrants by over 80%. That's 82.2%. And this is not without merit. The health minister himself pointed out in Parliament this week in responding to concerns about expats being able to obtain jobs in the BVI that the expats are obtaining jobs where they are necessary. And the hullabaloo that's being created about expats being here getting jobs and BVI people being here and not being able to get jobs, he says it's some BVI nationals are just creating the problems for themselves that don't exists, Kathy. But going back to the issue at the core of the concerns that we're discussing, how exactly should parents go about getting their kids regularized, that's migrant parents in the territory?
Okay, I briefly run across this Belongers and National Status Handbook with a number of questions and answers. And my attention was drawn to the section where it asks the question, what happens to a child born in the BVI, but who does not become a British overseas citizen at birth? The answer to that is that child takes the nationality of his or her parents. In time, he or she will remain in the territory, or he or she is entitled to be registered to become a British overseas territory citizens. The governor has the discretion, to register any child under 18 years of age who is in the territory at any time. This is what this booklet says. It also asks another question. When is a child who is under 18 years who was born in the BVI entitled to be registered as a British overseas territory citizen on application? The answer to that is, if the child resides in the BVI for the first 10 years of his or her life and was not outside of the British Virgin Islands for more than 90 days in any of those years, he or she can be registered as a British overseas territory citizen. If at any time after the child's birth the father or mother is granted a certificate of residence or gets belonger status, the child can be registered as a British overseas territory citizen.
And so here on The Big Story, what we try to do, Kathy, is to break down the information and provide the facts that our viewers need to know. And this is a start. These are facts in a nutshell, but this is a start. So what they need to do now is get out there, get online, get to the relevant agencies to get the information so that they can be informed, so that their kids and their friends can be informed. But one of the recommendations that I would make, and that I've heard some persons also make, is that just as how when I came here initially in order to apply for my work permit, at the point when I got the card, the Labor Department held an hour-long seminar where I was given a brief, myself and others were given a brief rundown of what the rules and regulations are as it pertains to the work permit process and what my rights are under the system. And so I think a similar session should be staged by the Immigration Department to just in a nutshell inform persons of what the rules and regulations are as it pertains to their immigration status and any potential expansion of their families if that's going to take place, or if they choose to reside here wish to reside here in the territory permanently.
You have a pamphlet, internet age, you go online and get stuff. The Labor Department can furnish persons, immigrants coming in with these information that can help ease tensions like this. Yes, in some instances, these are things that we are not comfortable as is. It's the law. We have to respect the law of any country. If we are to compare some of these laws to other countries around the world, they do not differ very much, right? So it's the law and we need to follow it, and there are ways that we can still do things to feel as one people and come together as one and live happy in the BVI.
And there's also the issue of responsibility, individual responsibility. If you're living, even in your own country, you have to be aware of your rights. So if you're living in another man's country, especially if you hope to adopt that country as your own, then you have to make yourself aware of your rights as well.
Totally agree.
The recommendation that the UNICEF made regarding this issue of migrant children in the BVI was that the BVI should seek to abolish discrimination in legislation regarding migrant children or children born to immigrants living in the BVI, and also remove the need for baptism forms as part of the process of obtaining a birth certificate, because apparently you have to show that your child has been baptized. But UNICEF also asked What of parents who aren't Christians?
Yes.
You know, you have atheists, agnostics, and other yet to be defined.
A totally bigger and different discussion forum for this one. But these are all things that I agree with UNICEF that needs to be looked at. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen today or tomorrow, but the possibility exists.
And what this issue also speaks to, Kathy, is a deeper issue, a deeper challenge in the BVI, where sometimes it seems as if the expats or the belongers are being pitted against each other, which is why some persons took the concerns that were raised so personally. And what UNICEF says is that there is an implied situation here involving tensions between locals and expats, and clearly this was spoken to by persons involved in those focus groups. In fact, UNICEF says social tension is evident in everyday life as BVI landers and non-BVI landers attempt to peacefully coexist. The issue of BVI landers and non-BVI landers needs to be decisively resolved in a just manner, since the impacts are felt in all the social services, interpersonal and intergroup and inter-community relations. I mean, BVI Islanders, while it's your country and we understand that you're passionate about it, you know, but at the end of the day, UNICEF says, remember that the expats who are here, the majority of them, if not all, are here legally. They're contributing their labor, they're contributing their knowledge, they're contributing to the various tax and deductible schemes here in the territory as well. And so it's not as if they're getting a free pass.
I know, and you know, I can attest to that very scenario that you talk about. I can remember going for my NHI card, the big crowd out there, and there was this one person who decided that she has to go to the front of the line simply because she is from here. It does not feel well. It does not spell to the one Caribbean that we are striving towards being. And you know, it takes away from who the core of the BVI is, because I can tell you there are a lot of BVI Islanders that are so wonderful, so warm and so welcoming. So there might just be a few who are taken away from it, but you know, we still got to work together and live as one.
Most definitely. And with that, we leave it right there on the big story for this week. But do remember to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and jtvlive.net as we continue perusing this situational analysis of children in the BVI by UNICEF. On behalf of Kathy Richards, I'm PTK Coombs. It's now time to check out hot trends with Sophie B and the BVI bands at St. Thomas Carnival.
JTV Hot Trends, it's your girl, the one and only Sophie B. And ladies and gentlemen, we are across the waters on the island of St. Thomas. Of course, it's Carnival down here in St. Thomas. And I'm down here repping the BVI for sure, because our bands are playing tonight, a night dubbed BVI night. And I'm here with the man himself, boss of Showtime Band, and the rest of the band members. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm here all excited. Can't wait to hit the stage, you know, to show what the BVI have to offer.
Now, of course, we all know there were the difficulties of the bands, BVI bands, being able to come down and perform. And Honorable Myron Walwyn, you know, he did his thing. And now you guys are free to come down and perform. How does that make you feel as a band?
I mean, it makes me feel great, you know, because to see that one of our representatives went out and beyond to make sure that we get things done for we to prosper, you know. So it's a great feeling, and we feel like we have the whole BVI on our shoulder, so we're going to go out and we're going to represent tonight.
There's so many BVI people in here tonight supporting.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great feeling, and I'm happy for the bands. I'm really happy for them because they really wanted to do this, and I'm glad that they were able to do it. Showtime just gave a magnificent performance, and you know Vibe gonna bring the place down.
Good stuff. All right, so the BVI shutting it down tonight.
We open it and we shut it down.
Nice stuff.
I feel very excited right now. You know, it was long overdue, and we're here tonight. So we're not only here, we want to put on a good show to make the people proud, to make everybody proud that we're here to represent the BVI. Live from Rock City. Bye, baby!
all represent where you come from, and you know we represent BVI. We stand strong, 284 all the way.
And of course, y'all repping BVI. Y'all came down on the boat.
Yes, we did.
Why was it so important for you guys to come down?
Well, we have to come and support our own, so
Support our own, our band.
we have to represent the BVI.
I can't be on this island and not hook up with this lovely lady, my sister Disha, and her lovely other half, Raymond. How are you doing tonight?
Great.
Raymond?
It's a good night tonight.
What do you look forward to for Carnival?
Juve,
And what do you look forward to for Carnival?
Crown Royal, and fish. That's it.
You were talking about fish earlier and you were saying boot number 13. What's so special about this boot?
Oh, the fish is freshly done and it's just good. Awesome. Awesome. You don't feel or taste like you eat fish at all.
Don't forget to check out Hot Trends on JTV Channel 55 on Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Up next in our Medical Minute, feeding your brain.
What's good for the heart is good for the brain. So I think many of the same features that give us good heart health will also give us good brain health.
Dr. Geronimo Jones is next with that report from the Mayo Clinic. Stay with us.
Eureka, located in the British Virgin Islands. Come, discover Eureka Medical Clinic, which provides the most complete medical services in the Virgin Islands. Our state-of-the-art clinic offers the highest quality in specialty care, cardiology, gastroenterology, orthopedics, and spinal surgery. We also offer specialty care in obstetrics and gynecology, as well as dermatology. Eureka Medical Clinic offers diagnostic procedures such as x-rays, mammograms, CAT scans, and all forms of ultrasound exams. Now, for the first time in the BVI, Eureka offers MRI scanning too. With colonoscopy and gastroscopy, we check the intestines and stomach for polyps, colon cancer, and ulcers too. Located at Geneva Place in the heart of Road Town, Eureka Medical Clinic with Medicare Pharmacy and Labs offers you a comprehensive medical facility all under one roof. So for high-quality medical services and convenience, there's no need to look any further. Eureka, you found it.
Does what you eat matter when it comes to brain health? Mayo Clinic experts say what's good for the body is also good for the brain, and your diet may impact your risk of dementia. Reporter Vivian Williams talks to Dr. Ronald Peterson about a heart and brain healthy diet.
There's no doubt that what you eat can impact your heart health. Research shows that's also true for your brain health.
What's good for the heart is good for the brain. So I think many of the same features that give us good heart health will also give us good brain health.
Mayo Clinic Dr. Ronald Peterson says eating a heart-healthy diet may increase blood flow to the brain. It may also impact the underlying disease process of conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. Now, what is a heart and brain-healthy diet? Dr. Peterson says it's a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats, such as olive oil. It also includes lean sources of protein, such as fish. But he also says the lifestyle choice that may be even more important for your brain's health is,
I would say, physical exercise.
every week, try to fit in 150 minutes of moderate activities such as walking. It will benefit your heart and brain health. For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
Before we go, a brief look at the main headlines. Health and Social Development Minister Ronnie Skelton urges BVI landers to stop blaming expats for lack of access to jobs as they're hired where needed, and in some cases, locals are creating problems where there aren't any. Opposition leader Andrew Foy requests that the House agenda be better planned, as too many bills are being rushed through marathon sittings, while not enough time is allotted to the question and answer session. Online news outfits may be thriving in the BVI, but at least one local newspaper says they are still profitable. Social Security Board boss says the board is wealthy and doing well, and Jaleel Cameron to launch his foundation on June 3. The big story this week, some locals challenge findings of UNICEF situational analysis of children in the BVI done in collaboration with the government and local stakeholders, but the authors of the study say the information included was only considered after confirmation by 3 different sources. In Caribbean news, a bill tabled in U.S. Congress to tax remittances to the region to fund U.S. President Donald Trump's Mexican border wall. Trinidad and Tobago President Anthony Carmona urges CARICOM leaders to replace the UK Privy Council with the CCJ as a critical phase of the Caribbean integration movement. And IMF backs away from commitment to fight protectionism as anti-free trade U.S. President Donald Trump clears his first 100 days in office. Now, just a reminder that you can find all the news stories featured in this newscast as well as previous newscasts on our website at jtvlive.net. Additional information and news updates can be found on our Facebook page, facebook.com/jtv55. If you haven't already, please visit our Facebook page to let us know that you like us. Of course, all our news features, press conferences, and JTV's television programs can be found on our JTV News YouTube channel. Subscribe for daily uploads. We welcome your questions and comments. Email us at jtvnews@hotmail.com. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Peter G. Coombs. Thank you for watching.